you know, I only recently found out that there are various different programs, and I'd love for you guys to go through, what programs are available to hotels, and also how do they work.
Yeah, so I can take the first one here. So the if you look at sort of what I think people typically think of as a loyalty program, is a points program. And so your Bonvoys, your Hilton Honors, those types of programs all fit into this category. And so, for members specifically, guests who stay, they earn points in the program, whether they're staying or whether they're engaging with the program in some other way. And then they use those programs for redemption, typically for free night stays at those properties. For owners, I think it's a little less understood. So the way that it works is, so it's a centrally managed program. And so, the loyalty program itself is making all the rules for the hotel. So they're setting, typically, right, this probably isn't true 100% of the time, but the vast majority, they are, setting what the redemption levels are for the hotels. So exactly how many points. They're setting what the member status rates are, what the earn rates are, sort of everything from a member and hotel facing point of view, like it's set by the central program. And when a guest stays at a property, anytime a member stays there, the property pays a loyalty fee, or I like to think of it as a loyalty commission, to the program. And so, I took a look at a few FDDs yesterday just to see what the rates are. So for Hampton Inn, it's 4.9%. For Westin, 4.2. For Best Western, it's 5.5. And so it ranges, we'll say, from like 4 to 6%. And even, within those, I'm sure there are, when you get into the fine print of it, they can vary. But in general, sort of a 4 to 6%. That revenue, so from all of the member stays, the 4 to 6% of your total room revenue that's getting paid to the program, that becomes the program's top line revenue. And so that revenue is used to pay for all of the redemptions. So all those free nights need to get reimbursed in some way, shape, or form back to the properties when they get redeemed. There are marketing initiatives that get funded. And then there's, the actual running of the program, so the operations of it, the technology, et cetera. And so, that in general is how it works. And the hotel is required to, adhere to all the rules. So making sure, like we talked about, like the experience is consistent. So they are giving all the member level benefits. They are offering inventory for free nights. They're signing up members, all things like that. But that's sort of, that's in a nutshell. We can go into way more detail at some point in time, but that's basically how a points program works.
Tim, I know one of the interesting dynamics with member rate reimbursement to the hotels, right? So a member goes and stays at a property, and essentially the loyalty program is paying the hotel back to give that guest a free night, right? And usually a very reduced rate versus what their normal paid rate is. And there's a lot of interesting dynamics in how they try to keep the hotel whole. So that they don't mind getting that business, right? Usually I've heard of hey, if you get 95% occupancy, then we'll reimburse you at the full rate that it would have been through the paid revenue. But anything underneath that, you wouldn't have filled up, so it's incremental. How do you see that changing between the last number of years in a bull market for hotels where everyone's basically turning demand away, and now when there's plenty of room for everyone to go there? How do you see that from the hotel side and from the member side?
Yeah, what I think is really interesting about that is sort of from a individual hotel standpoint, if you have your loyalty program saying hey, here's a member who's going to stay at your property, and even though your ADR is $100, we're going to pay you, something way less, let's say $25, $40, whatever, but it's going to be way less than ADR, and you should be happy with that, or you shouldn't be mad. From a property standpoint, totally understandable that you can look at that and you can say, wait a second, I don't think that's fair. From the perspective of the actual loyalty program, given that the focus on the program is to, drive those paid nights through your direct channels, and sort of the redemptions being the secondary, the carrot that's out there that people are going after, for properties where a small percentage of their nights are coming through redemptions, really what it is you need to make it so that those redemptions feel like they're really attainable. the way to make them feel like they are really attainable is to make it so they don't cost a ton of points. And the only way that a program can afford to do that is by making it so that they're not going to have to pay a ton of money to the property in order to fulfill those nights. And so the way that I've always thought about it is, for properties, now every property is created differently, right? But for properties that have a lower percentage of nights that end up being free nights that are getting redeemed, they need to make sure absolutely 100% they're not losing money on those nights, right? They need to make sure that all of their costs are covered, and then maybe there's a little bit of margin in there. But if it is truly just a incremental night, if they were, 50% occupied, and those rooms would have just lied dormant, asking them to pick up the room so that they can further increase the incentive for members to engage in the program so that more people are going to choose their property when they're paying full price. I think it's a valid argument to say that that's probably okay. If, especially as properties have more and more, occupancy that is open, I think, making it so that those nights are available for a price that are going to make people want to continue staying and want to stay that one more time and always choosing a property that's affiliated with your loyalty program is going to be really important. I'm sure there is a balance that can be made in what the actual reimbursement rate is so that properties don't feel like they are taking advantage of, and they are making some sort of margin on it. But, to ask for a full ADR reimbursement when you're only 50% full is really just going to harm the program overall, because it's going to make it so the costs are too high, and there won't be money to do marketing, and there won't be money, the actual points to redeem are going to be too expensive.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you.
All right. I don't know if I was supposed to jump in there, but we'll nix that part out. So that I'm going to riff on that one a little bit, and it was super interesting, Tim, to hear you talk about kind of the differential between the ADR and the redemption. I've heard some programs, like, how you mentioned, maybe 40% of the ADR, or maybe it's like a tiered approach depending on, what class the hotel is in, even upwards of like 85%. Is there a sweet middle ground? Do you think that's going to change at any point in time?
So, I mean, for the larger loyalty programs, I think that because they have done such a fantastic job of sort of building out that demand and sort of having that property set that really drives that demand, I think they have so much leverage that likely you won't see very much change there. I think when you look at some of the smaller programs that are looking to try and move things sort of on the margins, I think that you might see some movement there, especially if you're utilizing the loyalty program in order to try and drive room growth for your hotel group. Figuring out ways to shift things around so that owners feel like they are being better compensated, I think is definitely something that can and that probably does now and will continue to happen. But I also think it's, from a core economics of the program, that it's really important that everybody's educated about how the program works, because it's really important for the program to succeed that those redemptions are at that reduced rate. It's the reason why there's money left over to do marketing initiatives, to do centrally funded, like double points, triple points, and things like that. And also to make it so that you don't need 100,000 points to stay at a property that's $100. You need 20,000 points, or you need 10,000 points, or sort of whatever it is. It makes it feel like it's attainable. And so, yes, I think that there will be, and there sort of always is, sort of a give and take with these types of reimbursement rates. But I also think it's important that sort of the loyalty programs hold their ground. Probably not a popular comment with hotel owners, but in order for it to be successful and what the core mission of the program actually is, I think it is important that those costs stay sort of at a depressed level where, once again, the hotel's not losing money on it. But you need to keep the cost of the program down so that you can actually drive all the additional demand to the property.
Tim, I would totally. Oh, sorry, Victoria, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was literally just going to say, from a marketing perspective, I think your comment on having that marketing budget is so important, because the hardest part that hotels have and brands have is competing with the OTAs who have such a massive marketing budget, right? And I think for a while their marketing wasn't really valued the way it should be, and OTAs kind of came in and showed them why it's important for them to be marketing.
Yeah, and so I actually think that in this depressed time, any additional occupancy should be welcome at a hotel, right? They're trying to return their staff, they're trying to cover their fixed costs. So I think a full service hotel, I think is like 50% occupancies break even, and it's maybe 30% on select serve, something around that. So to the extent that those room nights get you to break even, it's extremely important. And just take about, like, let's say that the redemption levels change, right? Owners all demanded, no, we need more redemption amount. So based on the numbers that Tim shared with us, right, like 4 to 6% kind of pay in when a new person stays, what that means, let's just take the average 5. What that means is that if let's say they had 2% of that was going to marketing and operations of the program, right? That means you'd have 3% to buy room nights. If you had to pay full retail value, that means you'd have to have 33 nights to get 1 free night. How much channel shift could you get if Expedia is offering, their program, and Hotels.com has 1 free night per 10, and all of a sudden the property saying, hey, 1 free night per 33, come stay with me, right? You're going to lose any channel loyalty that you have there. So it's totally important that you have to keep using this, perishable inventory to boost the value of the program. It's the only way to make channel loyalty work.
Yep, very well said. It's a very good point too around sort of bringing the staff back in and making sure you get those extra rooms. Because sort of, even if it's at cost, like, you're covering the cost of getting those people back into the workforce and getting more people back to work, which is really important these days.